What's up, everybody? It is Matt from Electric All Wheel, and today, at long last, and for your viewing pleasure, we are going to install a plug-and-play dual battery discharge balancer kit with specialized adapters for the Aventon Aventure V2 and I believe the Abound, but we'll get to that in the future. We will be installing a 48-volt down-tube battery. It'll be a 48-volt, 15-amp-hour battery. Here, we are going to use a bottle cage adapter, which will extend up the mounting position and bringing it up closer to the stem. I know a lot of you have been waiting for this. I've received lots of correspondence, so we are going to get this done. If you haven't already, give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. It is our primary, and if you're in the area, check out E-Bikes of Tampa Bay, Florida. Listen, if you get in that group, you need to participate, make an event, and go for a ride with your e-bike friends. Don't expect somebody to do it for you. Get in there and be the leader of the e-bike crew. Here we go. So there are a couple of preliminary things you need to take care of. One is get the motor cable loose. So you need to take these zip ties out of here. And then undo the threads on the connectors. Disconnect that. It's going to give you the length underneath here because it's a unibody item inside the controller compartment, so you need the slack from the cable to come out. From there, you need to remove this single screw that is inside here, and it's the plate cover for the wiring that runs up and down inside the body. Kind of a pain in the butt. There it is. It is small. And then this just kind of flexes out of here. That's it. You need to make sure that for each of the 7 screws that are here, that you get the head of your Allen wrench or your hex head wrench seated well. They are in there with some blue Loctite, but they're seated very well and torqued to measure, I'm sure. For this end, you're going to want to remove all 4 of these. This block of 4 is the same length. Don't get them mixed up. Honestly, the removal is nothing. It's installing it back is the pain because it's very, very sensitive. You got to do it basically in reverse order. And getting the alignment right for the metal casing, which holds the controller, is very important without stripping the screws. The top screws are short. From here, you're not going to want to forget this cable. You want to push some slack out, and you'll get some movement on your controller. And you're just going to go ahead and pull it out of there. And this is what it looks like. It's all one piece. And the reason we had to get special adapters is because from the controller to the 5-pin on the battery plate is there's no intersect, and we want to avoid cutting. So that's what we're going to do. Go ahead and take these small screws out here. And this is a 2.5mm hex. From there, this is loose, and to bring it out is the plate, and then you just kind of want to turn it just like so, and then push it down through the opening. And then you just bring it out. From there, I'm going to take my adapters, and we're going to work with this one first. And what we're going to do is just set it up so that it is now in the controller plate. Take these tiny screws and put them back in. Perfect. And that means whatever sits on the plate now has an XT60 adapter. Then we're going to take the one off the controller, and we're going to plug in the other adapter. With these, you just want to match the edges, right? See how the edges are curved? That's how you do it. Also, there's spacing at this pin that is deeper than the rest of these four. So the fifth pin, it's spaced a little bit more, so you pretty much can't mess this up. I'm going to take my little screw, and I'm going to install this lock nut. The other one. Do the same. Should do that. So for this, the male end will plug into the balancer, so that's what I'm going to run up through the bottom. And I'm going to make sure to put it inside the grommet as well. Now that we've got our single extension cable with the male XT60 end up, we need to go ahead and install our balancer. And for that, we're going to grab our DateX2, and then we're going to go ahead and plug that in. We're going to start with the 5-pin that we've mounted on the controller plate. And we're just going to plug that in here. And then we're going to take our second battery input, which will be just like this one, and we're going to plug that in here. And from there, you need output to the controller. Now this balancer has 2 outputs. We're only going to utilize one. And we're going to go ahead and plug that in. And then with that, you can just roll it up. Make sure none of your stuff is binding. And then I'm going to try and fit these wires back in here the way it is. And get that out. Now, you definitely want to pull some of the slack out before you get it all the way in there so you have no conflict with your motor cable. And it goes in pretty easy. And you can start to see relatively where it's going to lie right here. We know that the holes are going to line up pretty well. Okay. Just going to see if I can get a battery go on this thing. I'm going to take my cable and then just plug it in real quick. That's one. Perfect. Second cable is right here. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take this battery out and test the second battery real quick. This adapter, we'll leave a link for it in the description below, but it comes with some screws, and what we're after is just to get the extension of this thing further up. The key here is to not create any scraping on your body. So we're going to depend on the tightness of this to hold it down, but we don't want to penetrate into the body with the screws. But for this application, I'm going to use a couple of washers, and that'll give me some more space between the body and the plate. I've got my washers on the other side, and then I'm just going to push my screw through, and then I'm going to find my top hole. Just get it on tight enough. Same thing, screw, washers. Just going to swing it around. And there we go. Trick here is that the battery can slide over the head of these screws. This will be vitally important when we actually put the battery mount on. But you don't want a head of a screw that's so large that it gets in the way of the mount. Take my high-long battery mount, and I need to make sure that I have no obstruction with my handlebars when it's spun around, so I think the head is going to be up here. Go ahead and make sure I know on and off. Plug that in. We're going to plug in the cable to the external battery. Beautiful. As one. That's what we're after. you're going to get a smaller hex head adapter and or hex head wrench, and you are going to go into one of the holes that will allow you to pry this thing into place without ruining the threads. Make sure whatever you put in there is smaller than the hole so it doesn't strip the threads of that screw. So I'm just loosely putting that one in. Now I'm grabbing another longer one. So now with that cross right here, I know that I will likely be in line. If I just leave them a little bit loose, I can use the top to push. So I'm just going to leave these just a little bit loose so I can move around the top. I'm going to put in my top 3. Now I'm just pushing and aligning the holes so I can get this threaded. My main goal is to make sure that I don't strip these, so I always like to start them and know that they're start well so I'm not going to run into any issues. This is the worst part about this install. Now we're on to the cable guard. Get everything set. Remember, it's this end with a little notch that goes up top. And then it seats itself. I'm going to put a little bend in here. Make sure that the cables are inside this thing. And there you go. What'll happen is they'll sit over the top of the knobs for the other screws, so you just gotta push them down. There we go. Go ahead and put this battery back in again and test, because I just have to know. So this is unplugged, the second battery is. Yes, good stuff. Okay, for this I got some of these black cable clips, and then I'm just going to pin one down here, or run a zip tie, single zip tie like it is. I don't want the double up, and I just want to see how this goes. this thing. Clean surface, yada, yada, yada. Just going to make sure that this battery cable is bundled with the rest of it. Oh, there we go. Well, there you have it. We have successfully installed a plug-and-play kit on an Aventon V2. I know a lot of you have been waiting for this, and so we have got it done. Something I want to show you. If you have a second Aventon battery, you can match the faceplate with half of the paired adapters that come from electric all-wheel, and then just plug it in. So there you go, plugged right in to your second battery if you have a second Aventon battery. That does mean that you're going to have to buy two adapter kits, but I think you'll find that it's worth it, and if not, you'll understand what to do. All right, so let's get to some range calculation. We have added a second 15 amp hour battery to the original 48 volt 15 amp hour battery for a total of 30 amp hours. We are going to add 15 plus 15 equals 30. We'll multiply that by 48, which equals 1,440 watt hours. And then we are going to divide that by 25. And that is the Mica toll constant. The Mica toll constant says that it takes 25 watt hours per mile ridden at 20 miles an hour throttle only. So divide that by 25 and you get 57.6 miles with this 30 amp hour dual battery setup. Remember, you are not isolated to this battery. You can get any amp hour battery you want. Just make sure it's 48. You can run it up here to the rear rack. You can get creative with however it is. If you have the large frame high step, then you can get the triangle battery. I believe you're going to want to check those measurements. We haven't been done an install for this on that bike yet, so keep that in mind. We did see one on the Aventon V1, but it was a small medium, and we did not feel it would fit well there. We are very pleased with this setup. Keeps everything on the center of gravity. We will put links in the description below for everything you will need. If you haven't already, give us a like and subscribe. YouTube is our primary, and if you're in the area, check out e-bikes of Tampa Bay, Florida. Please get in that group. You have to make the event and then go for a ride with your e-bike friends. We'll talk to you next time.